identify how the target organisations might change your organisation. Okay, so you've got your top 3 donors. Before you go and speak to them, you need to actually sit down with your own team and look at the guidelines for all of their calls and understand what impact those applications will have on you as an organisation yourself. This is really important because some of the requirements of some funding organisations can have a big impact on your company. For example, in the UK, there was one donor who actually asked a question in its application form: how do the people who sit on your board of trustees reflect the needs and the interests of the people that you are helping? So if you're working in Africa, how many Africans are there on your board? Faced with this kind of a situation, you need to review your board and actually look for some new and fresh faces who have experience and knowledge about the topic which you want some funding for. Some donors also require some organisational structures and evidence that you have them. So, for example, they may want to look at how you have gender policy or a disability policy or an LGBTQ policy. Don't write those policies one day before you actually submit your proposal. It looks very suspicious. So develop those first and implement them before you start to apply to those particular donors. Another issue is audits. Check whether those donors require some audits and also see what the frequency of those audits are. There's a big difference between being asked to do an audit every 3 years and an audit every 6 months. Also ensure that you have the people in place or the funds to support the people in place who can actually run those audits, and that you have an adequate filing system so that you can access the data that an auditor may ask of you once the project has started, or even up to 7 years after the project has finished. Some donors may say that you need to set up a separate bank account for their programme. If they do that, you have to do it. Also, some donors may say that if you put that into an interest account and you gain some interest, you may have to return the interest back to the donor. So be careful about that. Others will actually say that we'll pay you in arrears. So work that out, and also build in some time for the payment to actually come through to you. Add some delays of some weeks or some months and ensure that you can survive that period financially before the money actually comes through to your bank account. If you're working in another country, the donor may ask that you become a taxpayer in that country, pay VAT, or that you actually set up as a legal entity in those countries. This can cause problems and it can be very expensive. A second issue with setting up an office, which is a legal entity in another country, is that many NGOs make the mistake of saying, okay, well, we'll set up a network. Networks are very complicated and very difficult to manage. There are many examples of where separate new offices have started to work independently of the main body, the main organisation where you work. So if you are going to set up a separate satellite office, my advice would be to have someone in your headquarters who is 100% responsible for all the activities that happen in that office, and that they are a liaison, a permanent liaison between HQ and the regional office, and develop the contacts that way rather than letting them work separately and autonomously. So there may also be some requirements about annual turnover, staffing, human resources. So again, don't let your fundraiser develop a proposal without first speaking to your administrator and asking them to check all the requirements that that donor needs. Do that first before you allow the fundraiser to start developing a project. So don't go into this process of fundraising with rose-tinted glasses. On the other hand, the investment that you put into this and the time that you put into this will really help you, because many of the questions that the donor that you're working with is asking of you, other donors will ask of you in the future as well. So to have a full HR program in your organisation published and implemented will help you speed up the process in the future. So I hope our short tour of a fundraising strategy has been helpful, and I wish you all the best success in your future endeavours. Thank you.